You're about to hear a story that starts out simple but spirals into something way darker than anyone could have expected. I need you to stay with me till the very end because everything you think you know in the beginning, it flips. And trust me, you're going to want to be there when it does. This isn't one of those videos where the title overpromises and underdelivers. No. What happened during that checkup was real, raw, and left everyone in the clinic shaken to their core. And yes, you're going to get the answer to the mystery that's on your mind right now, but the path to that answer, it's full of twists, hidden clues, and one terrifying truth. Now, I want to talk to you not as a storyteller, not even as a creator, but as a person who knows what it's like to see something strange, to feel that gut instinct kicking in, and to wonder, is it just me? Or is something really wrong here? That's the feeling the nurse in this story had. And if you've ever been in a situation where your intuition told you something was off, even when everything looked normal on the surface, you're going to relate to her on a deep level. This story isn't just about a checkup. It's about what happens when someone finally decides to speak up, to act, even when no one else sees the danger. It's about trust, instincts, family secrets, and the scary reality that sometimes, the people who are supposed to protect us are the ones we need protection from. Now, if you've been watching true story animations or real-life plot twist videos lately, especially those with titles like Doctor Notices Bruise, then uncovers the unthinkable or Teen's blood test reveals hidden identity, you'll love this. Those videos are trending right now because we're all fascinated by the idea that everyday situations can hide dark, untold truths. And this one hits hard. It's emotional. It's uncomfortable. And once the blood work comes back, nothing will ever be the same again, not for the nurse, not for the daughter, and definitely not for the dad. Let's set the scene. It's late fall in a small suburban town, not one of those bustling cities where people are always rushing past each other, but the kind of place where neighbors wave good morning and the local coffee shop knows your order by heart. The pediatric clinic is quiet, the air thick with the scent of disinfectant and bubblegum-flavored fluoride. It's a Wednesday afternoon, the kind where nothing exciting usually happens. The nurse, we'll call her Anna, has worked here for over 7 years. She's seen it all, toddlers screaming bloody murder over shots, moms juggling twins and diaper bags, and dads scrolling through phones while half listening to health advice. But today, when this father walks in with his daughter, something sets her off immediately. The girl's name is Lily. She's 8, but there's a quiet maturity in her voice, like a kid who's learned to tiptoe around the grown-ups in her life. Her father, Tom, is tall, stiff, almost too formal. He signs in with barely a word and avoids eye contact with everyone. But it's not just his silence, it's the way he hovers over Lily, how his grip tightens when she moves a little too far from him. And when Anna starts asking Lily questions, harmless things like what's your favorite subject in school, Tom's entire body tenses like he's afraid of what she might say. Anna's done this long enough to know when something feels wrong. And what really seals it is the moment Lily casually mentions she's always tired, that her head hurts a lot, and that sometimes she gets dizzy after dinner. Now, these symptoms could be anything: anemia, low blood sugar, stress, but paired with her pale skin and what Anna sees as possible bruising hidden just under her sweater sleeve, she knows she can't let this slide. So she makes a call. A routine call, she tells herself. Just a quick blood panel, standard stuff. Insurance will cover it. No big deal. But the second that blood sample hits the lab, the countdown begins. Because what they find in that blood doesn't match Lily's chart. It doesn't match anything normal. It's not a sickness. It's not genetic. It's something else. Now I know what you're thinking. What could possibly be so serious that a simple blood test would make a trained nurse freak out? But that's exactly why you need to keep watching. Because in the next few minutes, things start unraveling fast. And the deeper Anna digs, the more she realizes that this wasn't just a strange dad with a few bad parenting habits. No, Tom was hiding something. And what he was hiding, let's just say it doesn't belong in any normal family checkup. Guys, this is the kind of story that grips you and doesn't let go. It's like a puzzle where every piece leads to something darker. You're going to want to know what was in Lily's blood. You're going to want to know why her father was acting the way he did. And most of all, you're going to want to know what happens next, because the moment that test comes back, everything explodes. So stay right here. Don't click away. Don't skip. Because the answer you came here for, it's coming. But before it hits, we need to go back. Back to the moment where Anna, with her hands trembling slightly, reads the first line of the blood test and freezes. Because what she saw there didn't just break protocol. It broke her. And that's where things get dangerous. Anna stared at the screen in front of her, the numbers from Lily's blood panel blurring slightly as her mind scrambled to make sense of them. Hemoglobin was low enough to raise concerns, but not alarming by itself. But it was the elevated enzyme levels, the traces of a sedative compound not typically found in over-the-counter medications, and the white blood cell count that struck her the hardest. Something wasn't adding up. She glanced at Lily, who was now quietly coloring in a corner of the exam room, her little legs swinging under the chair, still clutching that one-eyed bunny like it was her lifeline. Tom sat stiffly across the room, staring at the wall like he was anywhere but there. When Anna asked if Lily had been on any new medications or had been sick recently, Tom answered too quickly, almost rehearsed, saying she had a stomach bug last week and the pediatrician said it would pass. But something about the tone of his voice and the way he avoided meeting her eyes felt like a door slamming shut in Anna's face. It wasn't just today that felt off. Something had been happening beneath the surface for weeks, maybe longer. When Anna stepped out of the room and asked the receptionist to pull Lily's full medical file, she started piecing together a history that didn't sit right. A missed appointment 3 months ago. A cancelled dental referral. No immunization updates for over a year. The previous notes showed that Lily had once been bubbly, even talkative. A different nurse had written, "Dad seems nice, very involved, daughter loves school." That was nearly a year ago. Since then, the entries were sparse, mostly brief comments, rushed vitals, no real engagement. And now here she was, more withdrawn, with mysterious fatigue and an odd compound in her bloodstream. Anna knew she couldn't make assumptions, there were too many possibilities. Maybe it was a misdiagnosis. Maybe a clerical error. But if there was one thing she'd learned in her years working in medicine, it was this: when something feels wrong, it usually is. What made it all more disturbing was that Anna had seen Tom before once, about 6 months ago, at the grocery store. He was arguing with a woman in the frozen foods aisle. Not yelling, exactly, but his posture was intimidating, shoulders squared, voice low but sharp, almost threatening. The woman, maybe Lily's mother, had looked exhausted, her hair pulled back in a messy bun, one hand on a cart, the other holding Lily's hand. Anna had barely registered it then, just a family spat in public, nothing that screamed danger. But now, that memory gnawed at her like a warning she hadn't noticed soon enough. She started asking herself the kinds of questions that would never be written down in any chart. Why would a father lie about medications? Why was Lily so tired all the time? Why did her blood work suggest exposure to a sedative? And where was the mother now? There was no mention of a second parent on the intake form, only Tom's name and number. No emergency contact, no guardian information, just him. It was unusual, especially since Lily was so young. Anna began wondering if the woman she saw that day was still in the picture at all. Could there have been a custody issue? A messy separation? Maybe Lily was bouncing between 2 homes, caught in the middle of something far beyond her control. That could explain the fatigue, the anxiety, the missed appointments. But then again, what if it wasn't that? What if something darker was going on? Something no one wanted to say out loud? As Anna reviewed the file, she noticed a peculiar note, one line, written 6 months prior by a nurse practitioner who had since moved away. It read, "Child hesitant to speak about home life. Monitor for potential behavioral stress." There was no follow-up. No referral to child services. It had been buried deep in the system, never flagged. Anna's stomach turned. That note, paired with what she saw today, felt like a thread she couldn't afford to ignore. But if she pulled on it, if she officially raised concern, it would trigger a series of actions she couldn't take back. Still, she couldn't sit on it. She decided to dig deeper, starting with the clinic's internal notes and digital logs. One thing that stood out was a phone call recorded 2 months ago. Tom had called to cancel a flu shot appointment, claiming Lily had an allergic reaction to the last one. But when Anna checked the system, there was no record of any reaction. In fact, Lily hadn't even received the shot. That meant Tom had lied. Why? At the same time, Anna couldn't shake the idea that maybe she was overthinking it. Maybe Tom was just a stressed single parent. Maybe the compound in Lily's blood was from a legitimate prescription, one the clinic wasn't aware of. It wouldn't be the first time a parent forgot to update a chart. But if that was the case, why hide it? Why not just explain? Anna considered asking Lily more direct questions, but every interaction with the girl felt delicate, like one wrong word might cause her to shut down. Lily responded best to casual conversation, and when she spoke about her home, her answers were vague. I play in my room a lot, she'd said. Sometimes Daddy locks the door when he's working. That alone didn't scream danger. Plenty of parents close their doors for privacy, but it added to the strange picture forming in Anna's mind. A picture full of shadows where there should have been light. To make matters more complicated, another nurse, Jenny, mentioned offhand that she recognized Tom too. He used to bring his wife in for checkups, she said, back when she was pregnant. I remember because she always looked so nervous. Anna pressed her. What had she meant by nervous? I don't know. Just jumpy. Like she didn't want to say the wrong thing. She stopped coming in after the baby was born. That wasn't unusual, but paired with everything else, it cast a new layer of doubt. What if something had happened to the mother? What if Tom was hiding more than just medication details? But then came something unexpected, a red herring that threw Anna's whole theory off track. While digging through the digital intake history, she noticed a duplicate file, a Lily Thompson, same birth date, different address listed. It turned out there was a second file under a similar name, created by mistake when Lily had gone to a different clinic for an urgent care visit. That clinic had logged possible allergic reaction to medication, but the visit had been under the mother's name. And curiously, the mother's last name wasn't Thompson, it was Reyes. Now Anna had two possible leads. 1. Tom wasn't the biological father, he was either a step-parent or had taken over guardianship for reasons unknown. Or 2. Lily's mother had changed her last name, and something had gone terribly wrong in their personal lives. In either case, the mystery deepened. And with it, Anna's anxiety. She didn't want to jump to conclusions. She'd seen plenty of families that looked odd from the outside but were simply misunderstood. Sometimes what seemed like danger was just dysfunction. But what if it wasn't? What if Lily was quietly crying for help and Anna was the only one who saw the signs? All the while, Tom stayed calm. Too calm. When Anna returned to the room and told him the blood work would take a few hours, he simply nodded and said, "That's fine." No curiosity, no concern. Most parents would ask what was being tested. Most would want to know if something was wrong. Tom didn't flinch. And that's when Anna knew she had to act. But the moment she stepped out of that exam room and dialed the clinic's on-call doctor to flag her concerns, something happened that changed the course of everything. Tom stood up and said he was taking Lily to the bathroom. Anna's heart dropped. She told the front desk to stall him, to keep him there, but when she turned around, he was gone. Now the clock was ticking. Anna's breath caught as she rushed out of the hallway toward the front lobby, her shoes squeaking against the polished vinyl floor. The bathroom door stood open, empty. The hallway security camera's red recording light was blinking steadily, but when she checked the footage from the front desk monitor, it showed nothing useful. Tom had deliberately avoided walking past the camera. That alone might have been chance, but something about the way he moved, calculated and silent, made her feel like he knew exactly where not to be seen. She felt a creeping unease tighten around her chest. This wasn't just a dad who panicked and walked out. It felt like a calculated exit. And Lily hadn't said goodbye. Anna quickly alerted her supervisor, who in turn contacted the clinic's on-call physician and flagged the incident for Child Protection Services. But that would take time. Hours. Maybe even days. And Anna knew, deep down, that whatever danger Lily was in, if any at all, it wouldn't wait that long. She tried calling the number listed on the intake form, but it rang endlessly before disconnecting. No voicemail. No alternate contact. It was as if Tom had prepared for this. It was a voice recording. And it was Jenny. Her voice was faint, like she was speaking through tears, whispering, "Anna. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. They said if I helped, they'd protect me. But they lied. I saw the report, too. It's not just about Lily. It's about them. All of them. There was a long pause. Then a final whisper, whatever you do, don't trust. The recording cut off. Anna sat frozen in her car, the weight of everything crashing down on her. She didn't know who to call, where to go, or what would happen next. All she knew was that the closer she got to the truth, the darker and more dangerous it became. And now, the people behind it weren't just trying to scare her. They were coming for her. Anna sat alone in her car under the flickering streetlight outside the library, the echo of Jenny's broken voice still playing in her head like a haunting melody. Everything felt like it was crashing in on her. The air was thick with questions, but answers were scarcer than ever. She replayed the message again, this time focusing on Jenny's final words, don't trust, and then the silence. The line had cut out too suddenly, too cleanly. Someone had silenced her mid-sentence. But who? Her instinct told her to go to the police. But she didn't. Deep down, she already knew the system was compromised. Too many convenient disappearances, too many corrupted files, too many accidents. If this went higher than she imagined, bringing it to the wrong person could be the last mistake she'd ever make. Instead, she drove back toward town, headlights off on the back roads, heart pounding, mind spiraling through every interaction she'd had these past few days, trying to spot the lie she'd missed. That's when it hit her, one quiet moment she had brushed off as nothing at the time. Earlier that week, when she'd first asked Jenny about Lily's blood report, Jenny had been unusually evasive. She'd said, maybe it got sent to Derek by mistake, but in a weirdly detached tone, like she was repeating something she'd been told to say. At the time, Anna had let it go. But now, knowing Jenny had been involved, willingly or not, those words felt staged. Rehearsed. Which begged the question, who fed her that line? And what else had Anna overlooked? With her pulse racing and doubt twisting through her chest, Anna pulled into the dark parking lot of the clinic. She knew it was risky coming back, but something deep in her gut told her the truth had been right under her nose all along. Inside, the building was quiet, the night shift reduced to skeleton staff. She nodded to the janitor, who didn't even look up, and made her way to the archives room. She didn't need a pass, she knew the keypad override. It was old code, one she had used 1,000 times before. The door clicked open, and the smell of paper and antiseptic hit her like a wave. She sat down at the terminal and pulled up the hidden patient folder Marcus had shown her. This time, she looked closer not at Lily's file, but the metadata surrounding the edits. Buried deep in the access logs was a name she hadn't expected to see. Her own. Anna blinked, thinking maybe she was hallucinating. But there it was, an access ID linked to her employee number, used to make changes to Lily's record 3 days before she even met the girl. Confused and terrified, she dug further. The IP logs showed the access came from an external device, one registered under a name that made her go cold. Her brother's. Mark. She hadn't spoken to him in nearly a year, not since their mother passed and he disappeared after the funeral without a word. Their relationship had always been rocky, he was brilliant but unpredictable, and after getting fired from a pharmaceutical company in a quiet scandal that no one would fully explain, he went completely off the radar. She had assumed he was just spiraling, maybe even in some kind of trouble, but she had no idea he had accessed her credentials or even knew about her work. Heart thundering, she followed the trail, discovering more altered entries not just in Lily's record but in several of the other hidden files. Every access came from that same device. All routed through anonymous proxies. It wasn't just that he had broken into the system. He had planted data, changed test results, and masked interactions. If Mark had been working behind the scenes, why? What did he have to gain? And why target children? She called the only number she still had for him, an old burner line he used for emergencies. To her shock, he answered. His voice was quiet, low, and filled with a kind of urgency she hadn't heard since they were kids hiding from their alcoholic father in the attic. Anna, he said, you weren't supposed to see any of that. I was trying to keep you out of this. Her voice cracked with disbelief. You altered a child's medical record. What the hell are you doing, Mark? There was a long pause, then a sigh. It's not what you think. Lily, she's not just some random girl. She's part of a government program, experimental immunotherapy, something I helped develop before I was forced out. They were testing on kids. I tried to expose it. They buried the evidence and came after me. I had to fake the entries to protect her. To get her flagged and taken out of the trial. I thought if I made it look like malpractice, the system would reject her and they'd lose their hold on her. Anna's entire body felt numb. You expect me to believe this isn't just another one of your psychotic episodes? I'm not asking you to believe me, Mark said flatly. I'm asking you to survive long enough to see the truth for yourself. Then the line went dead. Anna sat frozen in the dark clinic room, her mind shattered by the revelation. If Mark was telling the truth, then this wasn't about abuse or custody, it was about experimentation, government cover-ups, and children being used as test subjects without consent. And she'd been dragged into the middle of it not by accident, but because she was the one person Mark thought he could trust to finish what he started. But if that was true, why hadn't he come to her sooner? Why hide everything, manipulate records, and let people like Derek and Jenny fall without warning? And more importantly, if Lily had been removed from the trial, then where was she now? Because the last photo Anna had received, the one in the motel parking lot, suddenly didn't make sense. Lily was placed into a protected program with full consent from her legal guardian. Any unauthorized tampering, like what your brother did, puts her and others at risk. You're a smart woman, Dr. Mercer. Don't ruin your life trying to play hero in a story you don't fully understand. The line clicked. The call ended. That wasn't a random snapshot. That was surveillance. And Lily was looking directly at the camera. Would you like the next section to reveal more about the government program, or deepen the suspense by uncovering another betrayal from someone even closer to Anna? Anna sat in her car outside the clinic for what felt like hours, staring at nothing, the weight of everything she had just learned pulling her deeper into a panic she couldn't shake off. The silence outside contrasted sharply with the chaos inside her head. Mark's voice kept replaying, each word slashing at what little clarity she had left. If he was telling the truth, everything, Lily's strange bloodwork, Derek's disappearance, Jenny's breakdown, was part of a system so twisted, so deeply buried, that trusting anyone could be lethal. But that was the problem. She still didn't know what was real. Mark had always been brilliant, yes, but he was also unstable, reckless. And if he had gone rogue, if he had dragged her into a federal experiment gone wrong, then not only was Lily's life in danger, but Anna's was now tethered to it in a way she couldn't undo. Just then, her phone buzzed. Another unknown number. But this time it wasn't a message, it was a live call. Against her better judgment, she answered. A woman's voice came through. Calm. Controlled. Dr. Mercer, we need to talk. Anna didn't recognize her, but the voice had that cold authority that made her skin prickle. Who is this? I work with the Department of Clinical Oversight. We're aware that your brother contacted you. That wasn't supposed to happen. He's been a problem for a long time. The voice didn't waver. We're not here to hurt you, but we need your cooperation. This is bigger than you understand. We can make sure you and your clinic stay protected. But if you continue pursuing this unauthorized investigation, we can't guarantee your safety. Or your license. Anna's grip on the phone tightened. The threat wasn't even veiled, it was direct, almost casual. And what terrified her more than the threat itself was how practiced it sounded, like this wasn't the first time they had made this call. Her voice was shaky, but she forced herself to speak. Lily is just a kid. You're experimenting on children. And just like that, Anna felt the walls close in. They knew. They were watching. And they were done playing nice. She drove straight to Carla's house, her heart in her throat. Carla had been the one person left she trusted without question. But now even that felt tainted. Carla had been quiet lately, distant. And Anna couldn't ignore one glaring fact anymore. Carla had been the one who insisted Lily be transferred to Anna's clinic after her old pediatrician retired. She had called it a lucky break that the timing worked out. But what if it wasn't luck? The door opened slowly, and Carla stepped out in sweatpants, looking surprised. Anna. It's late, are you okay? Anna didn't waste time. She pushed past her into the living room, unable to keep the panic in her voice from spilling out. I need to know the truth. About Lily. About Mark. About everything. You've known something this whole time, haven't you? Carla closed the door and stood there for a long moment, expression unreadable. Then she exhaled slowly, like someone finally letting go of a lie they've held too long. I didn't want you involved. I tried to keep you out of it. Anna's world tilted. So it's true. You knew. You knew she was part of some government program? She was born into it, Carla said quietly. Her mother was a volunteer years ago, experimental gene therapy tied to neurological resilience. They were looking for children with advanced emotional processing. Lily passed every benchmark. The program made sure she ended up in environments they could monitor. And I made sure she came to you because you're the only person I knew wouldn't be bought off or scared away. I thought maybe if you saw it firsthand, if you figured it out on your own, you'd do something I couldn't. Anna felt sick. You used me. I tried to protect her, Carla snapped, eyes glistening now. But once you're in this deep, Anna, there are no good choices. They control everything. Funding. Data. Staff. We're just the hands. The faces. They make the decisions behind glass you'll never see through. Anna backed away like the air had turned to fire. Her own best friend had been complicit. Maybe not willingly, but still complicit. And now, she had to decide, did she keep going and risk everything, including Lily's safety, or walk away and pretend she never knew the truth? She drove away from Carla's house without another word, heart pounding like a drum. Her phone buzzed again, but this time it was a text, with a GPS pin. No message, just coordinates. She hesitated, then plugged it into her car's system. It pointed to an isolated private airstrip an hour outside the city. And next to it, a message appeared. If you want to save her, come alone. No police. No cameras. No more delays. The ultimatum was clear. Her life, her reputation, her license, none of it mattered anymore. She had to choose between what was safe and what was right. Anna's hands trembled as she gripped the steering wheel tighter, knuckles pale against the leather. The GPS pinged with every passing mile, dragging her closer to the location she should have ignored but couldn't. The sun had long since disappeared behind the horizon, casting the road in a dim, haunting blue that seemed to stretch endlessly into uncertainty. Each turn she took, each tree that blurred past, deepened the knot in her stomach. She kept checking her mirrors, convinced someone was following her. But the road remained eerily empty, like the world had paused to let this moment play out uninterrupted. When she finally reached the airstrip, her headlights cut across a chain-link fence topped with barbed wire. On the other side, an unmarked black SUV sat idle, its tinted windows reflecting only shadows. The place looked abandoned, no signage, no staff, just a stretch of cracked asphalt and a couple of rusting hangars. But Anna knew better. This wasn't a meeting spot. It was a staging ground. And from the moment she stepped out of the car, she felt it in her bones. Something was about to change forever. She walked slowly, hands raised to show she wasn't armed. The SUV door opened, and a man stepped out, older, mid-50s maybe, with an unremarkable face that immediately put her on edge. His presence was sterile, like he'd been trained to erase every trace of humanity from his posture. He didn't smile, didn't blink too often, just looked at her like a data point. "Dr. Mercer," he said. "You made the right choice." She didn't respond. Instead, she scanned the area. "Where's Lily?" "She's safe. For now. But this isn't about just one child anymore," he said, gesturing toward a hangar. "You wanted answers. You've earned them." Despite every instinct screaming not to go inside, she followed. Inside the hangar, the air was cool and sterile. A massive digital display lined one wall, running streams of data, neuroimaging, gene sequences, test logs. She froze when she saw them. Dozens of children's profiles. Not just Lily. Names, faces, files. All kids from different cities, different backgrounds. All flagged under the same codename, Project Sentinel. The man spoke like he was giving a company pitch. "These children are the future. They've been selected based on a rare neurobiological marker that shows advanced emotional regulation and increased resistance to psychological trauma. In a world heading toward more instability, they're the key to maintaining order. We've already seen promising results. Controlled empathy, measurable loyalty, reduced impulsivity. Anna turned to him, horrified. You're engineering obedience. We're preserving civilization, he corrected. We've spent decades developing pharmaceuticals and therapies to combat dysfunction. This is the next evolution. Prevention. Optimization. Her voice cracked with disbelief. They're human beings. You're treating them like lab rats. They're assets, he said without blinking. And we've kept everything in balance until your brother disrupted the system. His conscience cost us years of progress. And now, you've followed in his footsteps. Which means you have a choice. Anna backed away, the world spinning. I didn't come here for choices. I came to get Lily. Lily's already been flagged for reintegration, he said coldly. But we'll let you walk away. Your brother won't. He's made his position clear. But you still have your life. Your clinic. Your license. We can erase your involvement. No one ever has to know. Just walk away. She was shaking now, the fury boiling beneath her skin. Why me? Why bring me in if you're just going to silence me? He actually smiled, and that was more terrifying than anything else. Because we thought you might be an ally. You've seen the collapse in public systems, broken education, fractured healthcare, crumbling mental health support. People like you understand that something has to change. We offered you the chance to be part of the solution. But you keep clinging to outdated morality. Before Anna could respond, the hangar door creaked, and footsteps echoed behind her. She turned, and her heart nearly stopped. Carla. Her best friend stepped into view, calm, composed, not surprised at all to see Anna there. Her expression was soft, almost apologetic. I tried to tell you, Anna. I tried to make it easier. Anna stumbled backward like she'd been punched. You're part of this. I never lied about why I sent Lily to you, Carla said gently. I believed in you. But I also believed in the program. You've seen what happens when the wrong people fall through the cracks: abuse, addiction, trauma passed down for generations. This was our chance to fix that. You betrayed me, Anna whispered, the words strangling in her throat. Carla stepped closer. I protected you. I kept them from digging deeper into your background, your brother's files. If I hadn't intervened, you'd already be in a cell or worse. The man beside them didn't move. You have one more chance. Walk away. Say nothing. Or join your brother. Anna's breath caught as she realized what that meant. This wasn't a warning. It was a threat. Mark wasn't just on the run, he was being hunted. Eliminated. But before she could respond, a distant sound cracked the silence, tires screeching, the sharp echo of movement beyond the hangar. Then shouting. Someone had followed her. Or maybe someone else had arrived. Carla's eyes widened. What did you do? Anna didn't know. She hadn't told anyone. Unless. Her thoughts reeled back to earlier in the day. That burner phone call. That single moment of hesitation when she'd left it in the car, still connected to the Bluetooth. Mark. He was listening. And if he was listening, then he was here. Alarms blared as chaos erupted outside the hangar. Anna didn't wait. She ran. Anna's heart pounded so violently she could hear it thundering in her ears as she tore through the side exit of the hangar into the blackness beyond. The night air was sharp, cool, and laced with the faint scent of jet fuel and wet asphalt. Red emergency lights began to flash across the tarmac, casting everything in a pulsing, blood-colored glow. Behind her, the sound of shouting grew louder. Men in tactical gear poured into the space, boots hammering metal, radios squawking commands. She had no plan, no weapon, and no backup. All she had was adrenaline and the knowledge that Mark must have triggered this somehow, somewhere. He had found her again. Or maybe he had never really let her out of his sight. She rounded the back of a hangar and slammed into someone hard. Her scream caught in her throat as a hand clamped over her mouth, but then she saw his face. Mark. Wild-eyed, dirt-smudged, unshaven. We have to move, he hissed. Now. They've activated the fallback protocol. What does that mean? She gasped, barely keeping up as he pulled her into a side corridor, ducking beneath a broken overhead light. It means they're going to destroy the evidence and remove all liabilities. That includes you. Me. Anyone who knows too much. His voice was ragged, but there was a fire in his eyes Anna hadn't seen in years. We don't have long. But I found something. Something big. They slipped into a small side room filled with old aviation equipment and flickering monitors. Mark yanked a drive from his coat and plugged it into the nearest terminal. The core database, he said, his voice trembling. Encrypted backups, surveillance logs, test results. All of it. Including who funded Project Sentinel. Anna leaned in, breath catching as the screen filled with names and numbers. It wasn't just one agency. It wasn't even just the government. Corporations, hospitals, schools, entities across multiple sectors were involved. Insurance companies funding trials to reduce liability costs. Defense contractors testing behavioral programming for potential military use. Pharmaceutical companies engineering treatments based on neurofeedback harvested from the children. It was an ecosystem of exploitation, carefully camouflaged behind a facade of innovation and public health. She scrolled further and froze. Her own name. And Lily's. File after file of biometric scans, emotional response data, therapy transcripts, even recordings of their private conversations at the clinic. They had been monitoring her from the beginning. She was never chosen by accident. She had been a variable in a long-term study, observed, manipulated, guided. Even Carla's suggestion to take Lily hadn't been her own idea. It had been planted. And at the heart of it all was the man from the hangar. His real name surfaced on one of the files, Adrian Kellerman. Former behavioral architect for DARPA turned private consultant. The mastermind behind integrating behavioral conditioning into childhood development under the guise of psychological support. Just as Anna turned to Mark to say something, the room trembled with a low rumble and explosion from the opposite side of the compound. The fire suppression alarms screamed to life. Mark grabbed the drive and yanked her toward a maintenance tunnel. They're purging the site. If we don't get out, we're gone. As they ran, Anna's mind raced. Everything she believed about her practice, her career, even her friendships, it had all been part of someone else's design. She had spent her life trying to heal people, help children, protect families, and yet the whole time, she had been a pawn in a system that used her compassion as a cover. They emerged at the edge of the airstrip, where a helicopter stood idle, blades spinning in slow, steady rhythm. But as they sprinted for it, a single figure stepped into their path. Carla. She held a pistol, arms trembling, but gaze fixed. You can't take that drive, Anna. You don't understand what you'll unleash. Mark moved to shield Anna instinctively. She knows. She saw it all. Carla's voice broke. This goes beyond Kellerman. You think you've seen the monster, but you've only seen the glove. The hand inside it runs deeper than we'll ever reach. Anna stepped forward, tears in her eyes. Then why are you still helping them? Because I believed in what we were trying to do. And if this leaks the wrong way, if people panic, it won't dismantle the system. It'll just push it further underground. The kids will disappear. You'll never find Lily again. Anna looked at her, the betrayal stinging sharper now than ever. You helped them manipulate children. I tried to steer it toward something better, Carla whispered. I thought I could change it from the inside. But Anna was done with believing in the lesser evil. She lunged forward, knocking the gun aside just as Mark tackled Carla. The gun skidded away into the darkness. Anna grabbed the drive and ran for the helicopter. Sirens blared louder. Searchlights swung wildly across the strip. Someone fired a shot that cracked the air, missing by inches. They dove into the cockpit, and Mark shoved the pilot aside. We have to go. Now. As the helicopter lifted, Anna looked down and saw Carla still on the ground, clutching her arm, staring up at them not with anger but regret. And just when she thought they were finally in the clear, Mark handed her a small object. Another drive. I didn't tell you everything, he said quietly. There's a phase 2. And they already started it years ago. Lily's only the first. Anna stared at him, the roar of the helicopter blades fading behind the weight of what he'd said. She thought the nightmare had a face, a name, a structure. But it was just the surface. The real conspiracy had only just begun. Anna stood in the cold, flickering hallway of the underground facility, her breath shallow, her hands trembling against the file she could hardly believe she held. The fluorescent lights above her buzzed erratically, casting a sickly pale hue on the dusty concrete walls. Every inch of her wanted to scream, to throw the folder down and burn it, but her eyes stayed glued to the words that now shattered everything she thought she knew about her own life, her father, and the entire nightmare she had stumbled into. The truth wasn't buried in some abstract theory or hidden deep in a government archive. It was right here, printed in front of her in black and white. Her father hadn't just acted strangely at Lily's checkup. He had been trying to warn her, in the only way he knew how, about the monster he used to be part of. The room she had just stepped out of was a sealed archive chamber filled with decades of confidential medical trials, signed non-disclosures, and forged consent forms. In the center, a locked cabinet had contained a series of DNA test results, some of them decades old, matched to a program labeled Inheritance 3X. It had been a legacy experiment, a generational psychological conditioning project disguised as pediatric behavioral research. And the bloodwork the nurse had run on Lily weeks ago? It hadn't just flagged abnormalities, it had triggered a system alert, connecting her to that very program. Not because Lily had developed something new, but because her markers were identical to someone already in the system. Her father. The evidence in Anna's hands detailed how, as a young medical student, her father had worked with a group of military-funded researchers on cognitive suppression techniques. At first, the project had focused on trauma resistance for soldiers, but when that didn't yield results, they began testing on children. Children from broken homes, foster care, and juvenile detention centers. Children no one would notice if they started behaving differently. The goal had been to design interventions that would mold behavioral outcomes from the inside out. The catch? The methods were irreversible. Her father, it turned out, had tried to shut the program down quietly, carefully, but he had been watched, manipulated, and ultimately blackmailed into silence. And now, Anna understood why he had acted so erratically at Lily's checkup. He had recognized the markers immediately, not from some intuition but from cold, clinical familiarity. He knew exactly what her bloodwork would reveal, and he had panicked not because he didn't trust Anna, but because he knew that once the system saw Lily's results, she'd be flagged for further observation, maybe even retrieval. Before she could process it all, the power flickered and then went out completely. The hallway dropped into pitch blackness, followed by the sudden hum of a backup generator kicking on somewhere in the depths of the building. Anna's gut twisted. They knew she was there. She stuffed the files into her backpack and ran, heart pounding, every step echoing louder than the last. When she reached the upper floor, the doors slammed shut behind her, electronically locked. The air was thick, almost buzzing with static, and in the center of the control room stood Kellerman, the same cold, calculated man who had watched her like a chessboard from the beginning. But this time, he wasn't posturing behind a desk. He was holding a small remote in one hand and a thumb drive in the other. "I assume you've seen the files," he said without emotion, eyes scanning her face. "And I imagine your trust issues are well earned by now. You used me. You used Lily," Anna hissed. "And my father. You poisoned everything." He didn't flinch. "We studied what needed to be understood. Your father was brilliant, emotional, unfortunately, but brilliant. You inherited more of his strength than I expected. But you've misunderstood one thing, Dr. Mercer. This isn't a game of good versus evil. It's about control. Always has been." Anna stepped closer, slowly, breathing through the fire boiling in her chest. "So what's your next move? Kill me like you did the others? Make it look like a car accident? A psychiatric break?" Kellerman actually smiled. "No, that's the old method. You've already become something more valuable than a target. You've become a symbol. The concerned doctor who uncovered a system too big to fight. The mother willing to risk everything for her child. You'll disappear into the public narrative we designed for you, and most won't even question it." She froze, realization dawning as she spotted the live feed monitors in the background. Every moment of her journey through the facility had been recorded. The files in her bag would be leaked in a way that made her look unstable, cherry-picked, edited, weaponized. They didn't need to kill her. They needed to discredit her so thoroughly that no one would believe a word she said. A controlled leak, crafted for viral attention but stripped of truth. Trending on YouTube, yes, but buried beneath spectacle and manipulated outrage. Kellerman raised the thumb drive. This is the original data. Everything. The only unaltered record. If you take it now, you'll be hunted forever. If you walk away, I'll let you live a quiet life. One where lilies never flagged again. Anna looked at him, then at the thumb drive. She knew this was it, the final choice. Truth or survival. But then, from behind a row of terminals, a sound. A sharp click. And Carla stepped out, gun drawn not on Anna, but on Kellerman. Drop it, Carla said, voice trembling. You went too far. Kellerman laughed. You think she'll believe you now, after everything? Carla's eyes locked with Anna's. I never stopped believing in the kids. I just stopped believing in you. Without waiting, Anna lunged forward, grabbing the drive as Carla fired. Kellerman dropped, the shot piercing his shoulder, not his heart. The man groaned and collapsed, clutching the bleeding wound as alarms began to scream. Carla turned to Anna. Go. Now. Upload the drive. The raw data. I'll stall them. Anna didn't hesitate. She sprinted through the corridor toward the old comms server she'd seen earlier, an offline backup no one had bothered to erase. She jammed the drive in, began the upload, and prayed that the signal would be strong enough to hit the satellite uplink. As the progress bar inched forward, the building shook. Explosives? Gas leak? She didn't know. The system was collapsing around her, but the files hit 100% just as the emergency lights cut out. And in the darkness, Anna felt something shift inside her. Not fear, but resolve. She had exposed the truth. But just as she stepped outside into the morning light, a van screeched to a stop in front of her. The door opened. A woman she'd never seen before leaned out, holding a phone already showing Anna's leaked footage. You need to come with us. Now. There's more of us. And we've been watching this for a long time. Anna blinked. Who are you? The woman smiled grimly. We're the ones who believed your father. And with that, the next chapter began. Would you like a resolution scene where Anna decides what to do next with the movement she just sparked, or would you rather leave it here with the twist still hanging?